All right. All right. And we're live. Welcome to our live listeners. It's a DTF podcast, week 9, part 2. I'm here with the people themselves, Mr. Stephen Gurney Goldman.
The people are here. The people are glad to be on the pod, talking some trades, talking some fantasy football.
All right. Well, why don't we start right there? We got some takes from Ankit about his myriad trades. But we want to hear from the people now about how you feel about unloading Le'Veon Bell. What do you feel about the value? What do you feel about the response from the league? Do you feel confident that this makes your team better this week or just going forward in general?
Sure. I'm going to get into my trade. First, though, I want to talk about something Ankit said about his own trade.
Okay.
It's maybe the dumbest thing I've heard on one of these podcasts.
These are the takes we want.
Yeah, I'm starting with the hot takes. I don't mess around. At some point, he's like, yeah, I got both Cohen and Howard, and if you combine them,
it's Todd Gurley.
And it's just like, I almost feel like he doesn't understand how it works. You have a limited amount of slots. You have, 9 people you can start. If you can start double the people that Tommy can, sure, that works out. But you never want to trade when you're saying, I'm getting 2 people that maybe will give me the value of 1. Anyway, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't really get the point of Todd Gurley. I've got Doug Martin, Wendell Smallwood, and Naheem Hines, and if you add that up, that's like close to Todd Gurley. So if you start all 3 of those, I don't get the hype.
So I was just like, I can't believe what I'm hearing. Like, he was so proud of that. All right, but let me talk about my trade. And by the way, Aiden, I want this to be a conversation. I know you maybe feel like it wasn't a great trade for me, so let's have a back and forth. But I'll tell you, my thoughts going into this. So first of all, when I traded for Bell, I had hoped that I could do a little bit better and not be in the situation. At the time I was 3-1, was hoping I could be 500. Maybe Bell would already be back. So there's no question that, the expectation from when I got him in week 3 to now, everything has sort of gone.
Yeah, it was a power move. I liked it at the time. Like I said, I thought that move was good for Ryan because he needed depth at that time, and you were in a good position. You thought, all right, let me, assume Bell's going to come back or get traded by that point, and then you'll have like the 3 best, or 3 incredible running backs, 4 incredible running backs.
Right. Yeah. So at the time, everyone was saying, basically everyone was reporting he's going to be back after the bye. Week 8, he'll play the Browns. I had expected him back. Anyway, since then, it's basically been all bad news. Connor's been great. It's unclear when he's going to come back. And then when he comes back, I wasn't really sure about the split. So I looked at it this way. Said, all right, I'm 4-4. I got crushed last week in a way that really brings me down in the points tie-breaking system, where I think I'm probably going to need 8 wins. So I have to win 4 to 6 games is the way I was looking at it, which is not sort of a position I thought I would be in. I think first of all, I don't know if 7-7 makes it, but I know that if I make it to 7-7, I'm probably going to be beaten in a lot of tiebreakers. So I said, I have to win 4. I played Tommy once already, so let's say that's a loss. I have to win 4 to the other 5. Bell, my concern was, I'm not going to have him this week. I may not have him next week. Who knows about week 10, 11? I felt like I had to make a move. So then I started looking at options. Really, there aren't many teams equipped to take on Bell. You have to be Tommy or Joe or someone who's saying, look, I'm comfortable with my spot. I think I'm a playoff team. Because if you're trading for Bell now, you're basically sitting him still for a couple of weeks. So I reached out to a couple people. Tommy had always had interest because of Connor. Ben actually was sort of promising. We had a deal for Odell, basically straight up. And I was considering doing that. This was like a week ago. Odell then had some good games. I think Ben wanted to hold on to him. At the end of the day, he sort of pulled that trade. And Odell's on bye. Not that, I might have taken him anyway, but he's on bye. But anyway, Ben pulled out. There was really no other market for Bell. Jake didn't respond. He was like one of the, I think top tier that I think would have been interested. I didn't really bother reaching out to I don't think you would have had any interest. Is that fair?
No, I'm in a similar situation where I gotta kind of win out. I have one more Tommy match in week 13, and I can't afford to drop. I can't afford to get to 7 losses really, or get beyond that at least. So I can only afford to lose one more game. I can't trade for people who may or may not play.
Exactly. So it was a limited pool of people.
Yeah, you got to go. Like Tommy was the clear market, someone who can afford to lose pretty much the rest of the season and squeak by into the playoffs like last year and then win the whole thing. He's fine with that. So I think, Tommy or Joe would probably be the only market since they're the only two that are in like comfortable spots at the moment.
So that was the problem. Joe, a couple weeks ago, he was maybe interested. Then I think after Connor again put up like, I don't know, 20 plus points. He as he seems to, people are, and me, the people, we're kind of concerned about his role. I was like, look, I don't know what's going to happen when he gets back. Joe, Ben, I think we're having doubts. The Tommy trade, I think I got what I could get. He offered me Thielen also straight up instead. And I said to myself, I think I prefer the Michelle and Sanders thing. Thielen, although he's the number one receiver.
So it was just like it would have been a 1-for-1 Thielen for Bell or the 2-for-1 Michelle and Sanders were the two offers.
Exactly. Yeah. So I thought about it. I could have taken the Thielen deal. I think, I'm still not really a believer in him. I don't know why. I mean, he's like great. I just like I can't get myself.
I would kind of love, just from a story perspective, if he just like has 100 receiving yards every game for the rest of the season. Like that would be fucking awesome. But he's gonna stop at some point. I agree.
I feel like he has to. I don't know. I'm just not a believer, even though, he's been crushing it. Sanders, they just lost Demaryius Thomas. I don't know. I think Sanders is like someone I can plug in and not worry about.
Like
not
Sanders,
saying he's like.
Yeah, like I thought when I was shopping Julio, Sanders was on the table from Tommy as well. I thought, maybe it's it was right after the game where he threw a touchdown against the Cardinals. And I was like, holy shit, like this is definitely a sell high move. Can he sustain that volume? And I'm still not sure. Like he's having a great season. They got rid of DT. So, but honestly, I don't think that, he already had an absurd target share before getting rid of Demaryius Thomas. Demaryius Thomas is a non-factor. So I think the DT trade is really just giving Cortland Sutton a chance. I think Sanders is going to be like a wide receiver too pretty weekly if he gets this kind of usage, even if the Broncos suck or especially if they suck. So I don't mind Sanders for value. Is Michelle like injured? Is he coming back? That was the thing I was wondering about.
Right. So Michelle, that was another, because it's like, he may not even play this week. I think he limited practice today. I think he's going to come back just because he was like, at a point considered for Monday night, and then he was ruled out and whatever. But I think signs point to him coming back. And my plan with him is this week anyway. I'll get him. My running backs play Monday night. I have Zeke and Dion Lewis if necessary. And because he's Sunday night game, I'll be able to see if he. I think he's going to play, but if not, that's unfortunate for me. But it wasn't necessarily like I have to trade Bell to win this week. It was more like I have to trade Bell to give myself a chance over the next 2 or 3 weeks.
I see. Yeah.
Because I think the other thing, people are talking about how good this is for Tommy. Other people, not me, are basically, because I view it, unlike Ankit, I view a 2 running back situation as a huge problem. You really don't want to be starting 2 running backs. And if a team is employing both, like I think the league's.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a couple scenarios, right? Like if you roll with Connor the rest of the way, which they might. Like Bell's going to log some playing time because I think he has to play in order to be eligible for free agency. So like for Tommy, I think Bell is just an insurance policy. Nightmare scenario is they split carries 50-50 because then you don't know if you can afford to start them both.
Right.
And you don't know who's going to go off one week or the other. But Tommy's hoping that, I don't know, maybe they start Bell and Bell's incredible and you can't, not play him. Maybe Connor gets injured and Bell comes back and is incredible. So I think for him it's just an insurance policy.
And I get it I don't hate it from Tommy's perspective. Michelle isn't really like a core in his plans, and he doesn't need Sanders either. So I don't hate it, but I just think like in the Steelers team, we'll see what happens. He could still get fucked, not by this trade, but just by the split.
Yeah.
For me though, I was like, yeah, it was basically, I think, a necessary move because of my place in the standings, because of my terrible week. I hate when another Ankit thing I'm gonna sort of shit on is he's like a fan of the like, if you're losing, you got to change it up. You have to like trade, and I think sometimes that's true, and sometimes it's not. I think for me, I had to trade a player like Bell because he's giving me nothing. I think there are situations where a team like Ankit, just because you lost doesn't mean these are bad pieces going forward. I think I understand trading people. Like, I think he's smart to trade for people whose bias passed. But I don't think like if you're losing, you necessarily need to trade. I think Bell is different because he's contributing 0. So I don't know. I will say this. I think my team in the playoffs is now worse than Bell if I had Bell and he was like functioning in that offense. But I think my chances of being in the playoffs were probably sub 50% if I kept him, and are now, I think, above that. So
So
I
it's
don't know.
like not, yeah. So, I mean, you're saying Tommy's making I'm going to the playoffs. Let me make a moves to ensure that I have these Steelers running back for the playoffs. Where yours is like, I got to just make the playoffs and worry about the rest later, which is
Exactly.
fine. Like, that's the way you got to play if you're at that point in the standings.
Yeah, and I mean, if I was 5-3, I think it's different. But now it's like I know I'm making my team a little bit worse long term in the playoffs, but I just got to get there and then hope I have 2 good weeks.
Well, honestly, I hope for the best. I feel like there's a lot of shit on trades. I like to see trades work out. And if you could win this trade, we need all the help we can. Otherwise, Tommy's going to win the league handily. Onwards. So Ben couldn't join us this week, but we have a Ben take on his trade.
Wait, before the Ben take, I want a little back and forth, Aiden. You weren't a huge fan of this deal from my side, and I get it, but
Okay.
I want to hear some
I
thoughts.
think I was fine dealing Bell. I think it's a good thing to do. I was just interested actually to see what Tommy valued him at. My problem with so basically Tommy gave you an injured player and someone who's been playing well recently. And I was wondering if that would help just this week. Like, is Sanders going to come down to earth? Is Michelle going to play again, or is White going to be the guy, or is Belichick going to, I don't know, sign another running back? At the time, there's a trade deadline. Who knows what the Patriots are going to do?
That's definitely a concern. Yeah.
So personally, I don't trust Pat's running backs. I already got burned by one this year. Not sticking my foot in the water there again. So I don't trust Pat's running backs, and I was sort of just worried about the pace of targets for Sanders. But like, if basically what Tommy's saying is he values Bell at a handcuff, and his value is equal to Adam Thielen, who's like a wide receiver 1, you decided to take a hopefully RB2 and wide receiver 2 instead of wide receiver 1.
Here's what I'll say about Tommy's value of Bell. I think he definitely wanted him, but I think he also knew that like he was the only game in town. I mean, I told him I'm just gonna take Odell from Ben, and at some point that fell apart. I don't know if he knew I was like full of it, but like when it fell apart, it was just like he was sort of sticking firm a little bit, and it is what it is. Yeah. But let's hear from Ben Druckmann, the one and only.
All right, so this was recorded, I think, on a train, and I'm playing on computer speakers, so I apologize. And Steven, if you hear something you want to call bullshit, call it. I'll pause. We can discuss and go back in because it's a couple minutes long.
Okay.
All right. So Ben Druckmann live from wherever he was.
Yo, what's up? I'm from Dyker Heights, repping the CE and BCL. There's no blunts, so don't get it twisted. Big fan of the show, long-time listener, long-time owner, first-time champion. That's right. So, let's talk about trade made of Ankit. Been looking to make a move for a while. It's been no secret that RBs have been my weakness so far. It's been great to see, obviously, Carson Miller step it up. This trick-or-treat had to catch my F-bomb right there. We were trick-or-treating. Anyway, so, they've been good. My wide receiver heavy, I wouldn't call it a strategy. We'll call it a tactic, as Rohan pointed out. I have to tell during the draft. When I was like, oh, shit, did not realize this would be my team. Anyway, but it's worked out pretty well so far. And I'm confident in my receivers enough that I could trade AB and still have a very good receiving core and get Mixon, which gives me an element that I didn't have on my team before, and that's a running back that can score multiple touchdowns a game. I think you absolutely need that to win a championship and make a deep run. So I think Mixon's a huge improvement. He's, in terms of losing points, he's scored as many as AB has so far. AB is number 5 receiver. Mixon's like number 11 or 10 running back. They've scored the same amount of points. Or no, Mixon scored 10 less points and won fewer games. So the same thing. Um, T.Y. Hilton, I think, is poised for a big second half, or at least that's what I'm banking on, and I think that's a good bet to make. Luck is healthy, first and foremost, and then Hilton has looked good this year. Obviously, the hamstring hasn't been great, but I think what's like a really good sign is he scored 2 touchdowns 2 weeks ago on 45 yards receiving. That's like not something he ever did before. Like 2 years ago, he had like 1,500 yards, only 6 touchdowns. I think his career high is like 7. So the fact that he's like scoring on these shorter routes in the red zone is absolutely huge. And I think this bye week is, going to set him up to, be as explosive, with a big field and with a short field. So I feel really good about that. I think the other pieces in the deal, obviously much more minor. I mean, the big thing is losing AB. That sucks. I would have preferred to give up Odell, but he's on a bye and can obviously not look for players who are not on a bye. I would much prefer to make that trade, but, it is what it is, as they say. Didn't want to give up Chicago initially, but, Mac's been kind of injured-ish. They haven't been that great. They obviously have the perfect matchup this week, so I definitely probably lost some points this week, expected points, or however you want to phrase it. But I think I got the Cowboys, who are great this week. I think I can manage go forward, streaming. Last time I didn't start the Bears, I put up 33 with the Broncos. So I think I know what I'm doing, and I'm going to bank on those 33 extra points every week. And that's what I'm going to ride to my championship. Getting Galladay, I think, is not inconsequential. One thing that kind of had me a little nervous at the trade deadline was that, first of all, Gordon was tardy. God damn it, Gordon. Sorry, I didn't want to take it in vain. But he was tardy, and then there were the rumors that maybe the Patriots would get Golden Tate. So I thought, hey, if I can play both sides of this, I'll come out on top and get someone with really good value. And Golden Tate went to another team, and now I have a bunch of great wide receivers. So obviously, this deconsolidated my team, which is not maybe necessarily what you want to do at this point, but I think I can still win some games with this lineup. Steven's team is ass. He got a little better, though, making the trade of time. I think he absolutely had to do that. So I don't, bemoan him for that. So we'll see. It's a huge week, and it's going to be a lot of fun down the stretch. And I'm glad I got Ghost, because that's a few extra points every week versus my opponent. So that's great. And I'm no longer, limiting my upside by having Cousins and Bailey playing week in and week out, and I just had shitty kickers all year, so it's good to be able to be past that. Anyway, going to be a fun stretch run. We'll see what happens. I don't feel amazing about this trade, which is how I felt about my team going in, which is how I know it's a good trade, and which is how I know I drafted a good team. All right, peace.
All right.
Interesting. And I did want to let that go just so, we could get Ben unfiltered. I have some thoughts. I don't know if you have some or want to start, but I have a few.
If I may summarize, the Golden Tate trade was huge. Galladay's stock took a huge boost. And I think he sort of was like, oh, I didn't know if they were going to trade him to the Patriots. He had something about sort of playing 4D chess with it. I think that Galladay was just kind of thrown in to get the deal done, and he got lucky that the Tate trade worked out the way it did, which is fine. That's great. Galladay's a good athlete. It was only a matter of time, I think, before the Lions realized that. I thought it was a fine trade for Ben. He had too many wide receivers anyway, and if he was looking for deconsolidation, I guess that's what he did. He deconsolidated AB.
Yeah, my main problem is I don't even think his starting receivers really got that much better. Yeah, Galladay now has some upside. They still have Marvin Jones. Stafford will still spread it around. Definitely was big for him. But he's got Funchess, Galladay, he's got Hilton, he's got Odell.
Yeah.
I think Gordon. I think those 5 are Odell obviously you have to start, and then 2 of those other 4 you're just sort of guessing at each week. And I never like to be in that situation. I think you want the Odell and Brown and then a flex. And then my main issue with this whole trade is I just don't think Mixon is who he thinks he is. He's really saying he believes in Mixon. He's bullish on Mixon, and I'm not. I think that's the difference. Mixon obviously has looked good this year. Bernard at some point is going to get healthy, and I think that Mixon's still the guy, but there'll be somewhat of a split there. I think it comes down to how you view Mixon. The other thing about Ben is that this trade really hurts his chances against me this week. And that's not to say he won't win. He could. But I think, trading Brown for Mixon, who's on bye, he's got a couple other buys. I think it makes this a losable game for Ben, when at the beginning of the week, I think he was like favored by like 20 or something with the projections. Now I've made a trade. He's made a trade that I think is worse for him in the short term. And Ben is a team that I think is kind of in the same situation as me. He's 4-4. He's got the points edge, but I think he's got to view it as he's got to win 8 games. And so I think if he ends up losing this week because of that trade, that's pretty big. In a week where he was like a pretty huge favorite. I don't know. I just don't believe in Mixon. I think that's sort of why I don't like it.
Yeah, I mean, basically, I look at the trade. It basically seems to me that like Mixon, they started with AB on the table on Ben's side and Mixon on the table on Ankett's side. I think Ankett pretty much said as much. They kind of just added pieces till they felt it matched up. And like when you're starting, like Chris Carson's been fine, but this Seahawks backfield has been a nightmare this season. So I feel like, and Lamar Miller's sort of awakened, but prior to like last week even, Ben probably didn't feel very good about his running game. He's got Chris Thompson. Who knows how the Redskins are running the ball anymore. So I think he just wanted someone he could lean on. He thinks Mixon's going to be that guy. He traded for him when he's on bye, so clearly he was thinking longer term. So yeah, I think maybe he took a short-term hit to improve his run game in the long run. There's Ben pun for you there.
There you go. But let's just talk about Mixon, because I don't – Ben's like someone who, scores multiple touchdowns. He did that once last week. So I think it's like a sort of recency bias with Mixon. The weeks before, he got, 50 yards and then 60 yards, both on less than 14 carries. He's like, I just don't view him as someone that's just like dependable, startable. He's not someone you can bench, I don't think. But like, I also think he's like not a piece that's like, you feel great. I mean, on Ben's team, you feel great about him, but like, I don't know.
I think he's an RB2 with RB1 upside. Like he could go off in a game. Like if Dalton's firing on all cylinders, then Mixon could do very well. If is being terrible, then Mixon won't do very well. And he's got some tougher games up ahead. He's got Saints. Their Saints are going to go up and they're going to stay up. So Mixon's got to be involved in the passing game or like in sort of short yardage touchdowns to get value there. Baltimore, if they are still a good defense, or maybe Cam just tore them apart and they're not any good, who knows? So like he's got a couple tough games up ahead, but I think Mixon's really talented. Hopefully it shows from a fantasy perspective.
Hopefully not.
If I had Mixon, I'd start him every week. I think anyone would either, and we'd start him.
I agree. You have to start him. I just don't view him as like
you're expecting RB2 with RB1 upside with Mixon, and I don't think that Ben really has anyone quite like that, or maybe he has a couple. I guess Lamar Miller now, maybe, but only based on the last 2 weeks.
That's fair. All right, I think that's most of it for trades. By the way, very predictably, this is like the classic Jake thing. By the way, it's not that like I am immune to like people criticizing trades, whatever. My whole, because I do want to get into this. My whole thing is like whatever. Like people are going to talk. You have to do some trades, but I do think the most predictable thing besides death and taxes is Jake chiming in after a trade, claiming one side won, even though he's part of the like liquidity problem, at least for the Bell deal. You know what I mean? Like he's saying, "Oh, this is all you got for Bell." When like one of the teams in the market, he was basically with Joe. I think the other two teams that could have credibly bid for him, and he's not offering me more than that. So I do want to. I don't know if that was relevant, but I want to squeeze that in because I think it's.
All right, Jake. Well, when Jake appears on the pod next week, he can address his trade response allegations. He's the meta trader. He trades on trades. He dishes on trades. They're always losers in Jake's mind. everyone who traded for someone other than Travis Kelce is doing horribly. But yeah,
I do want Jake on the pod. I think that would be interesting. Jake,
we should. Yeah, we want everyone on the pod by the end of the season. I'd say like that would be
not going to happen though. Actually, rank the least likely to come on the pod. Top 3.
Ryan, Jake, Oleg. Oleg's number 1. Sorry, Oleg is least likely, probably. No, Ryan least likely, followed by Oleg, followed by Jake. That's my prediction. So
Ryan has been on podcasts historically.
Yeah, I know, but he's been historically absent from chat.
Yeah, that's true.
Season. I think he's just busy.
That's true.
All right. Let's do quick recap. So we talked a bit about my matchup with Ankit last week, so we can skip that one, but let's do a quick recap of the rest of them before we get predictions going next time. I will remind everyone that ESPN gave me about a 20% chance to beat Ankit. Tommy gave me 10%. If he did it, he said it's top 5 trade all time. I did it. Top 5 trade all time. Put it in the books.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you want a minute or two, a little monologue to address the haters and everyone, this is your time.
I mean, all the hate was justified. There's 2. If I lost this week, and especially if Mac didn't play, I would have been called an idiot for the rest of the season. If I had traded any other way that caused me to lose, I would have been called an idiot, especially when Julio catches 3 touchdowns this week. But it helped put me 3-5 instead of 2-6. And I somehow magically predicted that Fitzmagic would come back. And I'm not going to bravado and say I knew that. I just thought that Evans is too good of a player to not get thrown to. And it seems like that might be the case going forward. So kudos to me. Great trade on my end. I'm looking to make more trades. I'm getting a little taste for it. So hit me up if you're interested in people. I think people are interested mostly in Juju, Evans, the Mac Hines package, or of course Melvin Gordon. So hit me up on trades if you want to talk. All right, let's go into your matchup with Joe.
Yeah, let's not. No, I'm kidding. This was tough. I think, look, the score is the score. When you score 58, you win 0% of the time in our league. Never happened. So that was tough. I was like deluding myself into thinking I had Monday Night Hope. Joe didn't have the best week until sort of the late Pats defense TD. Yeah. Whatever. This was rough. The one silver line, not silver lining, but the solace, like it's the close ones that hurt sometimes. Where like, look, team had an awful week. It's not like I made a start that would have swung it. I just was always going to lose, no matter who I fielded. Yeah, and it's tough, but
it's a tough week. They happen.
Yeah,
just move on from it.
Exactly. I will say though, Joe won. His team, I think, is a little bit overrated. The problem is like besides Tommy, there's no one else like really in that stratosphere. I think when he gets Fournette back, if he's healthy, if he's the guy, it's a different team. But I just like, I don't know, maybe because I just played him. I think this Joe team is like has some weaknesses, and for all the hating I was doing on the Jones Gronk trade, Gronk is just like
average at best. Yeah, he's better than average, but like tight ends have been horrible this year. I'm busting out the wine, by the way. Make this class.
I like it.
All right,
I like it.
I have a glass too. I feel like you must have some lying around. Anyway,
somewhere, yeah, I definitely do. But just on Gronk, he caught a touchdown week 1. He hasn't caught one since. He hasn't been over 100 yards since. I mean, like, I don't know. At what point is like? I know this is sort of a little bit of a change from how
this sounds like the thing we say before the week before Gronk catches 2 touchdowns. So
yeah, exactly.
That's the thing. It's like Gronk is just always one game away from going off. Like,
right.
If you have him, even if he's putting up numbers like he's putting up better numbers than like Njoku or someone like that. But I'm saying even if he puts a pedestrian tight end performance 2-3 weeks in a row, he's got the chance to go off in a way that other tight ends just don't. Aside from like Kelce, like even Ertz has like not been fantastic. Like not like last season. Ertz, like Kelsey's the tight end you want to own, then Ertz, then Gronk, then OJ, I guess. And
I will say this though, if you look at tight end rankings this year, Gronk is number 8, and he's got 48 points on the year. Kelsey's got 88. So like, there's a big drop off, and he could go off, but like, I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying like we do it soon, but like. After a season of this or 4 or 5 more weeks, I don't know if you can put him in that. We'll see. And he's obviously like just physically talented, but he's not putting up the numbers. So
yeah, maybe hindsight. My gut reaction to the Aaron Jones Gronk trade was that I would rather have Gronk because he's Gronk, but maybe with the Tymont trade and last week's performance from Jones, the pack is going to lean on him, and maybe Ankit saw what I didn't.
Yeah, it's maybe swing the way. Unfortunately, it's too late for Ankit. By the way, I don't think 7-7 makes it, but good luck, Ankit.
Well, if he does, if there's other 7-7 teams,
it would be him. Yeah, with the points.
All right. Moving on. Next is Jake versus Rohan. Any last thoughts? So that was another big Monday night game. Oh, it was really big Vikings Saints game. That was fun to watch. And then slightly bigger Monday night game since they both had players involved in there.
Yeah. I think actually so no, I thought reading all the hype, as I'm sure Jake did, I thought Barner was going to get a lot of love with Michelle out. Just goes to show you can't trust Belichick, and maybe I'll be in for that. But Cordell Patterson is getting carries ahead of Barner. This I think was going to be a lot closer. Drew Brees had under 7 points, almost never happens. Allison less than 2. Jake just had an off week, and he still put up 88, mostly behind AP and Diggs and Kelsey. I think everyone said this about Rohan every time they appear on the podcast, is that his team is good.
Yeah.
And he's got a legitimately good team that you're just sort of afraid of. I think each week you don't really want to be playing him. This is a big win for him. I think the Fuller's out, but Kupp is maybe coming back. I think Rohan is maybe in my mind at the top of the cluster of the 4 and 4s.
For me, when I look, I think absolutely. For me, I look at the playoffs right now, Tommy obviously in the contention, Joe in the contention. I think Rohan's be my bet for number 3, and I think the rest of us are just squabbling for that 4th spot.
Yeah, I think it's so after Rohan, it's the 4 and 4s anyway. Jake, Ben, me, Oleg. No one really stands out in that group. So and then you're just behind, and
I'm creeping. Exactly. Ryan's creeping behind me, and
I think Ryan's done. I'm calling it now. Ryan's fucked.
I don't know. I'm still stung by last year when we both made that crazy run and he edged me out for the playoffs. So I'm never discounting Ryan late in the season.
True.
All right, moving on to Tommy versus Oleg. A surprisingly fun matchup.
Yeah, this was a good matchup. Pretty good week for Oleg. 100 points.
Like I said, it was 1 30-yard touchdown away from being an actually pretty close game.
Yeah. I don't know. It just this year it sucks to play Tommy. People have good weeks against him. He's just Connor again with 33. His team. I do want
to do a stat sheet to see if if James Conner would have changed any. If I get rid of Connor, assume that Tommy didn't pick him up, maybe give him to Ryan or something. Assume that basically if the what if the Le'Veon Bell thing never happened? What would the league look like? Just assign all Connor's points to Bell, put Bell on whichever team owned him at that point, and just that would have shaken out it would be interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
And replace with Connor and Tommy's lineup with his next highest scoring running back, assuming he made perfect starts at decisions.
That was, this was the biggest pickup of the year, and it was 2 months ago. It was just Bell may not play week 1. At the draft, Bell went for Bell value because everyone thought it would be worked out.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show you that
no one even drafted Connor. What the fuck were we thinking? Not even Tommy drafted him. We picked him off waivers.
Yeah, exactly. I'm surprised Ben didn't.
We got shamed. I got shamed for drafting Austin Eckler for $1 by Eric Barbera. Then I dropped him. Then Ben picked him up, and I've regretted it ever since. I was I don't need a backup. And I was wait, this is Melvin Gordon we're talking about. Of course I need a fucking backup. Anyway. Yeah. All right. Well, kudos to Tommy. One day he might lose. The last matchup and the closest, Ryan versus Ben.
Yeah, Ryan versus Ben was a good matchup. Before we get to that, thoughts on Oleg's team? Because everyone forgets about him. Oleg is 4 and 4 in the mix.
Oleg has a low-key pretty good team. Saquon is the truth. He got Kerryon Johnson, who's turning out to be pretty serviceable. Nuck, you gotta love to have. Mm-hmm. Some questions going forward. Now with the I don't know what to do with Ravens running back. So Collins' value may fade a bit if Tymont in the mix. But yeah, like Andrew Luck's balling out, Saquon's balling out, Nuck's balling out. That's a pretty good team to build around. And then, he's got some decisions to make, but like pretty much anyone on his bench, aside, he finally dropped Dez. Like almost anyone on his bench could be startable like at some point. He's got, well, maybe not, I don't know what Jacksonville is going on, but like Edelman could have great weeks. Baldwin, Seahawks are surging, could be great. Jared Cook, without Amari Cooper, he's putting up big boy numbers again.
I think if I'm Oleg, I agree with you. He's got a very deep and good team, but I think he might benefit from someone wanting a 2-for-1 for depth or something like that, and where he can supply a lot of these receivers. And
Oleg, hit me up.
Exactly, yeah. Or maybe he could have gotten AB from Ben. Who knows? But I think Oleg.
Yeah, I think Luck, Saquon, and Nuck is a great trio to build around after this week. Actually, Hopkins is going to be on bye next week. But you'll have Saquon and Luck back from bye, then it'll be good again. But we'll talk about that in the previews.
Yeah. So Ryan versus Ben.
Yeah.
I think it was a must-win for Ryan, and he didn't win.
Yeah, it was close too.
It was close. He put up over 100. Ryan has a good team, I think. The other thing I'll say about the Bell trade back in the day with Ryan is that like it gave him a lot of serviceable options, but like none of them are dependable. Except for maybe, I don't know. I mean, like even Cooks and Ingram, the best two players, sort of have been inconsistent on and off. He doesn't even really like starting Cooks all the time. So I think, I don't know, Ryan's team suffers from like a plethora of like decent options that are not like must plays. And if you look at, let's just see, I guess his bench really didn't do all that much. I don't know if he could have made up the points. It might have been close.
I don't think there's any one start sit decision. Like what Tyler Lockett's the only person who put up double digits on his bench. And
well, if he benches Crowell, like Ingram goes to RB2.
So you get what you get
7.
Almost 7 extra points. So he still loses.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this week it didn't, but Ryan consistently has bench players going off. He's got like, just like some tough decisions. Hill getting injured. Did he was
That's the thing about Ben's team. Like, look at that bench. It's a fucking wasteland of backup running backs.
Exactly.
There are 7 running backs you would never start on that bench.
Exactly. Yeah.
And 6 running backs you'd never start, and Austin Eckler.
But I don't hate that because look, if the starter gets hurt, you have someone. If not,
5, Chris Thompson, Austin Eckler are the only ones you need to really pay attention. My bad.
These are a lot of free agents here.
Yeah. You don't want to spread misinformation.
I will say, though, huge week for Ben, huge win. I think if he didn't win, he couldn't have made the trade he did, which I think, hurts his chances this week. But big week for Ben, to get to 4-4.
Yeah. All right, let's move on and do a quick round of predictions. And I think we're starting to run kind of late, but let's see what we think is going to happen this week with the results of all this trade and discussion. All right, so which is the least consequential matchup?
I think it's got to be Tommy Ankett.
Tommy Ankett. It's consequential for Ankett because if he loses this, he's mathematically eliminated from the playoffs.
Yeah.
Unless somehow just two teams just accumulate all the wins and someone squeaks by with a barely losing record, but he really can't afford to lose another game. Let's be real.
No, he can't. And I frankly think it's too late anyway. I'm picking Tommy. Ankett is a good team, but Tommy is the best team. Simple as that.
It's like projections are kind of close. I will say that there are still trade negotiations on the table, at least on my end, that may or may not influence the result of some games. So we'll see if these are the final lineups. But yeah, I can't imagine. I could maybe imagine some nightmare scenario where the Ravens defense puts Connor in check, and somehow it's all ground game for KC. But Tommy has so much upside. I think that he's going to go to 9-0. I'm rooting for Ankett because if Ankett beats Tommy, then the league becomes a little more interesting. As soon as you have someone mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, then the league is 10% less interesting.
Look, I think I'm even kind of rooting for Ankit a little bit because I really don't think he's a shot at the playoffs. But someone's got to beat Tommy.
Someone does, and I hope it's Ankit. So I'm picking Tommy, and congratulations, Ankit, on ending Tommy's streak.
Oh.
All right, on to the second least consequential matchup. That's probably
because everyone has consequence here.
Yeah, it's either Oleg Ryan or me and Jake. Let's start Oleg Ryan.
Okay, yeah, I think it's certainly a must win for Ryan, or as close as you can get to it. And I think it's a big game for Oleg because you really don't want to fall behind the pack when, Oleg has point issues. So I think he's another one that is going to need 8 wins.
Yeah. This is a rough bye week for Oleg, too. He's minus Luck. He's minus Saquon. He's starting Alex Collins with a muddled backfield. He's starting Kerryon Johnson against the Vikings at the Vikings. I think it's rough. It's rough for his run game. Whereas Ryan has Alex Smith against Atlanta. He's going to feast. McCaffrey at home against Tampa, which has no defense. Like, those guys are going to put up big boy numbers. Yeah, I think. And then the Rams Saints shootout. He owns some stock in that. So I'm picking Ryan here. I think Ryan's going to pull out the win.
Yeah, I'm picking Ryan. I think his team has better matchups, better bye situation. I will say this. You can't start Alex Smith in a 12-team league. You can't. He hasn't put up 20 all year.
Against the Falcons at home is probably the time he would, though.
It's a good matchup. I agree. They'll be down and throwing, but I just how is Alex Smith owned and how has he started? If there's someone who should trade for Tom Brady, like Joe has been begging for, maybe it's Ryan, but I think
Joe's currently rostering 3 quarterbacks and 3 defenses. So if you're short at either of those, hit him up.
Exactly. Smith, yeah, he's a great matchup this week. He's QB 25. I mean, this is a 10-team league. Regardless of the matchup, I don't think you can start him. I think take my chances with Stafford or Flacco or one of these free agents, or just get Bell. Sorry, not Bell. Brady.
Get Bell. Yeah, get Circle of Life. Bring him right back.
Exactly. Although I don't know if Ryan can afford him now. But I don't like I don't like starting Alex Smith. I think Ryan wins just because it's a tough week for Oleg.
Yeah, same. So congrats, Oleg, and I'm sorry, Ryan. All right, on to me and Jake.
Yeah, so this is a big matchup. But why don't you start talking about your team, how you feel about this week?
So a couple of questionables. I'm not too worried because Gordon hamstring strain. He's had 2 weeks to recover, and he was back at practice, limited, albeit today. But I'm hopeful that he plays. If not, I'm definitely listening to offers. So for teams that can afford to take a chance on Gordon, hit me up. I'm willing to sell, but I'm not desperate. I don't consider myself in desperation mode. So I'll get good. I'm hoping for value on that. Deshaun against Denver. Deshaun balled out against Miami, so I'm hoping that he can keep that going. It would be very interesting with the Demaryius Thomas swapping sides in that game. I'm just interested to see him play. Mike Evans, also questionable, but that's on the injury that he came back and played through last week, so I'm not too worried. I picked up Godwin as a backup for that. And hopefully, honestly, the biggest thing I'm hoping is that they sit Tyreek Hill this week. They're at the Browns. They're heavy favorites. So if they want to rest him, then Sammy Watkins' stock gets a big boost. So I think I have a chance. I have a better chance this week than I did last week. Biggest question marks for me are my injuries and the Ravens' defense against Pittsburgh. They already held them in check once. They manhandled them last time they met. And there's just not really a lot of safe defenses this week aside from the Bears or maybe the Cowboys. So that's my thoughts on my team.
Yeah, I agree with that assessment. I think it's tough to – I don't want to overuse the term must win because clearly when you say must, it doesn't mean there's no way for you to make the playoffs if you lose. Yeah. You can win out, things can happen. But I think it's kind of,
yeah. I'm facing Tommy week 13. I'm chalking that up as a loss, unless he still owns stock in the Rams and they're all sitting their stars by that point. But yeah, I can only really afford to lose one game between now and my matchup with Tommy, I think. So I'm hoping that this is not the one.
Yeah, I think this is tough to predict because I think Jake has a pretty good team. I think Marvin Jones. People say Galladay benefits from tape being gone. Obviously, yes. I think Jones does too. Jake, I think, is a pretty good team. I don't know. I mean, even when Breeze and Thomas gave him nothing, he basically went off. I'm a big Fitzmagic guy, and I think it was a great pickup for him. I
Yeah.
just don't know if you can bench Breeze against the Rams in what I think is going to be a high scoring game.
Well, I mean, from his perspective, like Fitzmagic's a great way to cancel out Mike Evans. Like if Mike Evans balls out, Fitzmagic balls out. So he's basically banking on that. He doesn't want to put himself in a scenario where Fitzmagic is Fitzmagic and he doesn't have a part of that action.
I know, but Fitzmagic is sometimes like 5 touchdown Fitzmagic, and sometimes he's like 4 pick Fitzmagic with no TDs. And he's just like, I don't know if you can bench Drew Brees against the Saints. And I get the canceling out thing.
I mean, if I was successful in picking up Fitzmagic, I would have probably started him over Deshaun, or I would at least debated it. Like, so I see where he's coming from. I think him picking up Fitzmagic makes this matchup even more interesting than it already was. So I'm like fan of it from like the league should be a fan of him getting Fitzpatrick.
I think Ryan, by the way, should have emptied his pockets for him. I mean, like, you want to start him. You don't want Alex Smith. You're 2-6. Ryan's not paying attention. I said it. Or maybe he is, and he just doesn't want him. But I don't know how you can start Alex Smith.
So who's
I'm picking Jake?
Damn it. All right. Well,
congrats.
I thrive in adversity, so we'll see how it goes. All right. Shall we go on to the people versus the Ben?
Yeah. So big matchup for me. I think I'm projected to lose by a little, but I was projected to lose by a lot before a lot of these trades.
Yeah, the line is at you're at a plus 5.4.
Yeah. Line. I think this comes down to, well, first of all, I'm hoping Michelle plays, and then I don't have to start one of these scrub running backs. Although Barber, actually, I like now. He had a terrible week 2 weeks ago, but it turns out he was hurt. So then I went back to him, and he got 20 carries. He got a touchdown. If they can stay in that game, you know, I kind of like him. I think he's going to play. I hope Michelle plays. I think, I don't know. This is like it's a boom bust kind of team that I have. So I have no idea what's going to happen. I hope I win, but I think it's like you flip a coin here.
Yeah, I think it's going to be close too. Yeah, I mean, Zeke always has potential to put up big boy numbers. Who else you got? John Brown could actually do pretty well against Pittsburgh secondary.
I like that, yeah.
Dolphins could easily manhandle the Jets, but the Cowboys could also easily manhandle the Titans. It is really kind of a coin flip. I think I got to give the edge to – wow, this is really tough to predict. I'm going to pick you just because I feel like –
Uh-oh. Kiss of death.
I feel like, yeah, I don't know. It's tough. I could easily see both Carson and Miller shitting the bed. I can't see Zeke doing – like Zeke has a higher floor than either of those guys. So, like, you've got at least one guaranteed pretty good running back on there. Like, I don't care how good the Titans defense is. They're going to feed Zeke the ball.
I hope so. Although even Zeke, like, last week not last week he was on bye, but the week before, surprisingly, like, nothing. I think you're right, but like I've seen enough games where like he's shit the bed that like
I mean, like, look, he's the only top 10 running back on either side of this matchup, and this league values that.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm going to base my prediction off of, but it's close.
I will say this: I think the projections are probably right. I don't think this is like a 125 to 115. I think this is going to be like you score 92 and you cross your fingers, you know, like something like that.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see how it shakes out. So then we'll move on to our last matchup, which is Joe versus Rohan. It's probably the most exciting one to watch.
Yeah.
No idea who Joe's starting. I'm not sure what his strategy is. I guess he just wants to make it harder for us on the pod to predict.
Exactly.
By benching everyone. I think also I think what it really is he doesn't know who he wants to start. And he knows that if we saw him flipping between Brady, Matt Ryan, and Russ like twice a day, we would all say he was shook, and he wants to avoid that.
I think Joe is like, look, we get it. You've done this, whatever. it's like with the porn gifts. It's like, oh, it's like kind of a shock thing.
Yeah.
But like, come on, like, what are you doing?
Right. So Julio's going to catch 2 to 3 touchdowns this match because it's his first game since I traded him. So I would, if I were him, I'd start. No, I wouldn't actually. I would diversify. I'd start Tom Brady probably.
I think he's right about that game. It's primetime Sunday night, probably kind of a shootout.
Yeah, it's like you want that. Like Matt Ryan could shit the bed. Russell Wilson could shit the bed. Tom Brady against the against the Packers, they're going to put the pressure on, and Tom Brady's going to fire right back at him. So, got to start Tom Brady. Got to start Julio. Got to start Kareem. That's a good core to build around. Gronk is Gronk. Got to start him. Which defense he's going to go with? Probably Texans, right? Like
I think so.
Yeah,
I think it's tough to trust the Jets defense.
Right. So that's a really good core to build around. Rohan's got a lot of injuries to worry about. He's got Cam questionable. He's got Kupp, Breda, Olsen, AJ. Well, AJ's on bye. Cook. Well, I guess if Cook's ruled out, that's good for him. But yeah, I mean, he's got Kamara against the Rams. That's going to be a big. Rams have terrible run defense. Kamara could easily put up like 35 points.
What I do like about Joe, and I think is like an okay strategy, is he does have Cordell Patterson as a wide receiver who is now apparently yeah. So I kind of like that, although it's not like he really put up a ton of points.
I'm going to pick Rohan. I think that Rohan's team is good. I think he's got to start winning at some point. He's been putting up big boy numbers all season. So I'm going to pick him.
We have a special guest, by the way.
Hey.
Wait, do we see her? No, I don't know.
2 special guests.
Yeah. I'm picking Rohan. I just feel like he has a good team, and Joe has an overrated team, but Joe's team is kind of good too. He's got a lot of like boom bust wide receivers like Deshaun Jackson. I guess that's really it. He's got Julio now. I'm gonna pick Rohan.
All right. Well, congrats, Joe. I got to run, so I'm going to call it here. But great pod. I know we went very long this week between the two, but there was a lot to discuss. So yeah, everyone we called out for participating on the pod, step up and pod next week.
Yeah, Jake, that means you.
All right. All right. Good to see you guys. Let us know what you think in the comments.
Peace.
Peace.